I'm going to give Facebook a second to let everyone know that I'm live. Hello, I'm Morgan, owner of Ink Goddess Creations. If this is your first time joining us, it always takes Facebook a second to send out the notification, and then it's a 50-50 shot as to who gets it. All right. Okay. We have people joining. I hope you all are having an amazing Friday. Hi, Brandon. Yay, I have comments too. Sweet. Hello. I don't know if is it Danae or Danette? I'm not sure which one, but hello. I'm glad you can make it too. Hi, Christy. Hi, Patricia. Hi, Natalie. All right, so if you've never been here before, I'm Morgan, owner of Ink Goddess Creations. I am here every other Friday talking about magical stuff. I'm talking about Samhain today. Samhain. So what I'm going to do is I do go over some things and then I pause, hit up comments and questions, then go over some more, pause, hit comments and questions. So there are breaks in here. And then this video will be available on the replay on the one page when it's done too. I need to catch up. Rhapsody, hello. And Adriana, Kim, and Janine. I hope I got that right. I'm definitely seeing some new faces. Lisa, Christine, and Laura, hello. Definitely seeing new faces today. This is exciting. Welcome to Ink Goddess Creations. So I'm going to jump in because I have a lot to share. I mean, these usually last about an hour. It's like Janet with a D, Janet. There we go. Welcome. All right. So I hid the comments just for now so I can start. I'll hit them up here in a second. Any comments, questions, throw them up in the comments and I do go back and read them and answer any questions if I can. Okay. So we are here today to talk about Samhain. So otherwise known as Halloween, it is October 31st. It actually starts on October 31st and then you kind of party all through the night to November 1st and then it ends November 1st, like evening time. Is kind of like the way that it was done, back in the day. It is a Gaelic festival, so it hails from Europe. It's been a lot of the practices of Samhain have been adapted to Halloween. So kind of made it commercialized, things like that. But it is the Witch's New Year. It's the start of the Celtic calendar, the kind of the Wheel of the Year calendar. So for a lot of us, it's the Witch's New Year. So this is next weekend. So I wanted to do this one with enough time to where if there was anything you learned here, you could incorporate it into your own practices, things like that. So, and that's why we're kind of covering it a little early. But let's face it, next weekend, we're all going to be busy, right? We're all going to be making some magic, celebrating Halloween, all that kind of fun stuff. So this video, I'm going to go over the correspondences, practices, deities, symbols, things like that of Samhain. And the first thing I have to hit up is the pronunciation, right? So it is not Samhain, contrary to Supernatural, the TV show. And also somebody said something, there was an older TV show or movie or something that said Samhain as well. So it is Samhain, Samhain. I've even seen Samhain because it's Gaelic. Samhain, Samhain, Samhain. All of these, but it is definitely not Samhain as it is spelled. And I know that is super confusing. And I know that anybody that started out, like if you read it in a book, we all pronounced it Samhain. We all pronounced it Samhain until we heard it. If you started out, solitary, reading out a book, things like that, and especially before the internet came around. So this is more of like an educational thing. So if you're starting out, it is not Samhain. It's Samhain. I have a twang, so I say it's Samhain, Samhain. You get it. My twang comes into play. So this is the end of the harvest season. So there's like 3 harvest ceremonies, and it starts with Lammas, which is August 1st, and then Mabon, which is the first day. It's September 20th, 21st. It's the first day of autumn. And then it ends with sowing. So this is the time to finish harvesting everything that you've planted for the whole year. And I mean like spiritually, metaphysically, as well as physically if you have a garden. And it's time to look forward into the future as the Witch's New Year. So this is more like a spiritual New Year for us. So you can set, New Year's intentions, things like that, but it would be on like a metaphysical, a witchy, a spiritual level. It is about death and regeneration. It is about new beginnings. It is about transformation. And most of all, it is about magic, especially this sowing. Okay. This sowing falls on a full moon, which is a blue moon. And all of that, anything can happen this sowing, absolutely anything. And it's super exciting. It really is. So, energetically speaking, if you kind of look at the wheel of the year as a whole, and I do run over these every time that we have a Sabbath that comes up, and I do one of these Facebook Lives, I kind of run over it as like, so if you've been here before, you have heard this. So, it starts with sowing. So, this is the Witch's New Year. You want to set your intentions. So, this is for like big goals, big plans that need maybe a full year to really come to fruition. So, this is going to be your long term goals. You want to set your intentions at sowing, and then for Yule, you're diving down inside of yourself to really kind of clear away any blockages internally that could be keeping you from attaining these intentions and these goals you've set. So then you have Imbolc comes around, which is like February 1st, and you're going to light fires, inspiration, motivation, reevaluate now that you kind of dug down and reevaluate your intentions, see if they need tweaking. Okay. Then Ostara comes along. That's Easter. That's when you're going to plant the seeds. So you've got everything figured out. Now you're going to plant, like, these are the steps I'm going to take to achieve these goals. Then Beltane, which is May 1st, comes around. You're going to add fire to it. So fire, energy, motivation, all of that. Then summer solstice, which is June 20th, 21st, 22nd. It's first day of summer. You're really going to add that last burst of energy to these. Anything that needs tweaking, anything that needs, you're going to just add all of that fire energy to it. Then with Lammas, which is August 1st, you're going to begin harvesting. So you're really going to start to see all of that work you've done for the whole year is really going to be coming to fruition. And then by Mabon, you're really going to harvest and prepare for winter and really celebrate. So for Samhain, you're setting your intentions, but you also need to be able to look back at the past year and celebrate everything that you've done since last Samhain. So it's kind of like a dual thing. And that's where the death and regeneration comes into place too. You're putting the last year to rest, and you're honoring everything that's happened, and you're celebrating everything that you have accomplished, but then you're moving forward into the next year. So we're going to get into correspondences. I'm going to catch up on comments and questions. Amy is here. Hello. Stephanie is here. Hello. Brandon says, by the way, can I just say I'm sending vibes to Molly for Hecate candles? Yes, we do have a lot of candles that are out of stock, and Molly is working on them. She has to finish up our Ain't Goddess Creation box candles this weekend. I do know that, so that we can start packing boxes next week. Denise is here. Hello. Renee. I'm hoping that's what that is. It's a very unique spelling, so I hope I got that right. Hello, Anita. And Sarah is here, and Randy, and Stephanie Johnston, local, if I remember correctly. I see Kathy Mendito, first name, hello. Dee is here, Shannon. Healing Elements is here, yay, and Heather. Hello. All right, so no comments or questions so far. Julie is here, and Amy, hello. All right. So easy correspondence. I try to go a little slow too, in case people are writing this down. But yeah, that's why I'll pause or kind of do like a long pause. So your colors, of course, are black and orange. That's a given. Deep reds, purples, and golds are also good. I also read silver somewhere. I can see that, like kind of like the purple silver, and then like the deep red and gold. I totally can see that. Like those are definitely Samhain colors. Symbols. So this is like I was researching Samhain things, and then everybody was just Halloween. Like even the pagan sites, the witchy sites. So basically, if it's a symbol of Halloween, apparently it came from Samhain. So we were talking like jack-o'-lanterns, witches, spirits or ghosts, all of them. I mean, some of them were even like black cats. They all basically, if you see it and you're like, oh, Halloween, it can also be associated with Samhain. So yeah. All right. So this is where, if you are new here, we have an eclectic witch deck. We come out with expansions in the box, but then every Sabbath we come out with expansions as well. This was actually the first expansion we ever did. It's still for sale on the site. So it is the Samhain expansion. So this is the time where I just read stuff off the cards because, hey, we did the research already, right? Got all that done. And plus I get to show y'all pretties, and show and tells are always great. So for deities, these are two of the cards in the pack. Those are the first two cards as well. Tells you about Samhain and then the Witch's New Year, and kind of what that means. So gods and goddesses of Samhain. For the gods of Samhain, so many of the gods associated with Samhain and Halloween and the Halloween season are gods of death or the underworld. It's just really easy to equate that with this time of year. So Anubis, who is the Egyptian god of the afterlife. I always say Kurnanos. No idea if that's correct. I pronunciate things horribly because most of it I learned from reading. So, Kerninos, Celtic horned god. Hades is the Greek god of the underworld. The Aztec god of the dead. That's a mouthful. We're going to do that, and then we're going to sound it out, y'all. All right. Mictlantecuhtli. Tektuli, something like that. Osiris, Egyptian god of the dead. Pluto, the Roman god of the underworld. And Yama, who is the Hindu god of death. So then we have goddesses of Samhain. So goddesses of death or the underworld have become goddesses honored at Samhain, including these common deities. So overall, you have the crone. So if you believe in the triple aspect of Maiden Mother Crone, now we're entering the crone's time of year. So that's going to be Baba Yaga, who is Russian, Kaliak, who's Gaelic, Caradwin, who's Celtic, the grandmother Spider Woman, who's Native American, and man, these Aztec ones. It starts with an X too, so that's a Z, right? Zacaquetzal. Hecate, who is the Greek goddess of witchcraft. Hel is the Norse goddess of the underworld. Kali is the Hindu goddess of death. Lilith is the dark goddess of sexuality. Morrigan is the Celtic goddess of the underworld. I think that's how you pronounce it. Egyptian goddess of the dead. And Persephone is Greek queen of the underworld. And if my husband was here, he ran to run errands, he would say Persephone. If you ever played Assassin's Creed, that's how they pronounce it, is Persephone and Hecate. So every time I say Persephone, he's like Persephone. So those are the deities. I apologize that I butchered so many of them. Those Aztec ones are crazy. We also have herbs, oils and herbs associated with Samhain. So coriander, cypress, eucalyptus, myrrh, patchouli, and peppermint are really good for, like, all of these kind of have, clairvoyance, protection, seeing through the veil, and like regeneration. And bay, frankincense, glengel root, rosemary, sandalwood, wormwood. I also want to add mugwort on here, definitely, especially if you're doing divination. So mugwort and eyebright are really great for divination, but these herbs are really good for transformation, protection, seeing through the veil, and magic. So those are just some of them. Of course, there are tons of oils and herbs that are associated. These were just some really good ones that we added there. And then gemstones, there's a card for that too. Bloodstone, which is really good for consecration and rebirth. Then you've got like carnelian, which is your orange, and then black stones. So jet, obsidian, onyx. Hematite is a good one to add here as well, and smoky quartz. So all of these are going to be really good for protection, especially if you're astral traveling. And then cleansing, protection, passing through the veil, and grounding, because we really want to get grounding energy right now. And I'm definitely going to be going over why grounding is so important during any kind of Samhain practices. So as far as animals associated with Samhain, you have cats, black cats, especially spiders, which are good for transformation and shadow work. Ravens and crows bring messages from the dead. And the owl it's a night bird, and we're celebrating the night for wisdom and clarification when you are receiving those messages. For food, always talk about food here at Ink Goddess Creations. If you're a customer and you come to Sacred Space in our customer group, it always ends up at food. Most of us are kitchen witches. So yeah. Apples, pumpkins, that's kind of a given. Nuts and like gourds like squash. Dried and salted meat if you eat meat. Bacon was brought up in many articles, and I recently switched over to being I'm a pescatarian, so I eat seafood and bacon. I couldn't give up bacon now. So pork, any kind of root vegetables. So, potatoes, turnips, anything like that kind of comes up from the ground. And then if you're really diving into the ancestor honoring for Samhain, cakes. There's so many different cultures that honor the dead with cakes. Cakes and candy, of course, is how that's kind of gotten commercialized, is into candy. So that's going to be to honor the dead. And then for drinks, this mead season, mulled wine and cider. Can be hard cider, can be not hard cider, like apple cider. So before I hit up chakras, because that's a fun one. Let me I am located in Arizona. My favorite stones are, so Shannon asked, what are your favorite stones or crystals for sewing? I'm partial to obsidian and onyx, and carnelian are kind of like the basics. For me, I really do love a smoky quartz though, but mine is generally obsidian. I love obsidian, just the feel of it. And I have a few pieces that are kind of like sheen obsidian, which has that really nice flash to it. So I'm partial to obsidian for sewing. Brina says these cards are so awesome, really nice, durable reference material. And Janet says, I might get a deck. My son is learning tarot. He's doing it on his own. Oh, that's awesome. Cerninos, not Kerninos. That's Anita. That's how Anita says it's pronounced. Yeah. That's one of the ones when I did learn, I was 21, 22, and I lived in England and I became a part of a moot, which is just an eclectic group of pagans. If we ever went over him, it was one I didn't retain. Sorry. So that was one I never knew how to pronounce. I'm trying to see how I could phonetically spell it out for you. I could at least do the Aztec goddess. Those are black amethyst. Anita says, I use my black amethyst for scrying and protection. Yes, black amethyst is so beautiful. Dora is here. Hello. Candy says, one year I was very busy. I used powdered donuts for ancestor cakes. I don't care. That is awesome. Yes. Sharon says, I'm doing my first mute supper this year. Yes, we're going to get into that. I think I'm actually going to, I want to host one this year. I do too. We'll see. We'll see if the family is like, okay, cool. Or if they're like, no, not on board at all. All right. So chakras. So this is something I realized when I started doing these every Sabbath. I think I started with summer. It was either summer solstice or Lammas. And I really dove into the chakras because I enjoy doing chakra work. And at first, it was very easy to find information on how the Sabbats correspond to chakras. It is not anymore. So this is like uncharted territory, like me kind of associating chakras with Sabbats. And if you want to work on it, it's kind of uncharted territory. So I really go by gut. I really go by feeling. If you want to research and, find things, you may find completely different information. You may find information to kind of support, my theories. But this whole chakras associated with the Sabbats is really my ideas behind it. So for me, it's the root chakra, third eye chakra. And you have the crown thrown in as far as messages from your higher self or your divine energy. So the crown chakra is thrown in, but it's kind of like crown chakra by way of the third eye chakra, if that makes sense. Starting with the root chakra, Samhain is the time to really root yourself to the earth. Okay. You need to start and make sure that your basic needs are covered. And that's what you do with the root chakra. Make sure your basic needs are covered. Then once those are covered, you can set new intentions of what's not being covered or things you want to work on. So you want to do that. And then you can move forward with those new intentions. So you want to definitely ground and visualize. I visualize roots kind of coming from me into ground. And you really want them to kind of go deep. You want them to be movable. So you don't want to be stuck to the earth. You want to make sure they do move. But even when you're moving, these roots are still attached to the earth. But you want to go deep. You want to feel that ancient primal energy deep within the earth. Okay. And once you kind of hit that connection, and it's easy to do it through meditation, once you hit that connection, that energy will just kind of blast right through you. So red is associated with the root chakra, but for me and Samhain specifically, I really focus on deep, dark rooting through the root chakra. And for me, that's the color black or like really dark silver. So onyx, obsidian, and hematite is a great one for this time of year. You want to connect deeply. And that's where, for me, that differentiation lies. It's not so much red. You could go burgundy. I go like deep roots into the earth. So I'm going, dark silver and black and gemstones that resonate with, or that are those two colors, will really resonate with that energy and help ground you. Food wise, because eating food colors or eating foods associated with that chakra is a really easy way to align it and really build it up. So dark grapes, star anise, licorice, black licorice, which red meat if you eat meat. And so they have black potatoes now, and I love them. I brought purple potatoes, and then I remember that they have black potatoes too, and I love cooking them. And they're like the little tiny ones. Some rosemary, garlic. I told you it all goes back to food here. Black tea and wines. So any of these really, eggplant too, because that's like a deep purple. Any kind of darker foods are really, and chocolate. And how did I forget chocolate? Especially dark chocolate. How did I even forget that? I do prepare these things, and then things hit me while so hold on. In case I ever re-record these for like YouTube or anything. Dark chocolate is the best, right? So then Samhain is about opening your third eye for divination, contact with the spirit realm, communication with the other side. So as far as if you're just going to, if you're focusing on the third eye, you want purple light, purple foods, and then herbs such as mugwort, eyebright, calendula, peppermint, and star anise are really good for opening up that third eye. And then yeah, any kind of purple foods will help there. Now, Samhain actually bridges the gap between these two chakras. You can't see my other hand. It's at my root chakra. So it kind of bridges this gap from your root chakra, connects your root chakra to your third eye chakra, which is super important for this time of year. Super important. So without grounding and protecting yourself before a divination session, you could leave yourself open and vulnerable to malicious energies, dark entities, things like this. You want to ground and protect yourself before doing anything that has to do with Samhain. So before a Samhain ritual, before a divination session, before contact with the spirit realm, anything like this, you want to ground and protect yourself first. If you don't ground first, you then won't be able to open up your third eye as much as you want to open it, right? So if that kind of sounds weird, like, oh, but I want to go up and out. So how would grounding me help me go up and out? This is even for astral travel, lucid dreaming, things like that. You want to ground yourself first. So you need to think of it like this, okay? Which is going to extend upwards and outwards strongly and be able to weather anything that happens? Is it going to be a huge tree with roots deep inside the earth? Or is it going to be a little sapling that just started growing? It's going to be the one whose roots are deep in the earth. A hurricane comes, a tornado comes, those guys stick around because their roots are so grounded in the earth and their branches go up and they can go anywhere with those branches. So that's how you want to think of it. You definitely want to ground and protect first, then you can go up and out. And you can astral travel, you can ride the hedge, or fly the hedge, you can walk in between worlds. You can do all of this, but you need to ground and protect first. So that is where Samhain connects your root chakra to your third eye chakra and allows that to happen. It allows you to get that deep, ancient grounding so that you can do whatever. Yeah. And protection. Protect yourself. So you can use gemstones to do this. You can visualize kind of like a protective bubble around you of energy. I tend to use gold for, protection energy. But you definitely want to ground and protect before starting anything that has to do with your Samhain ritual or any kind of Samhain practices. All right, let me catch up. I don't have too many comments here, questions. Kathy is here. Hello. I don't have a good recipe for cakes, no, because Candy said that she used donuts in the past. I get store-bought stuff. I'm a busy witch. And Maria said anything with chocolate, count me in. Black tourmaline. Yes, Kirsten. Yes, black tourmaline is another good one. I do love black tourmaline. I use that one I use black tourmaline on a more regular basis for empath protection. That's a really great one. I tend to forget about it for Samhain, so thank you for bringing that up. Deanna is here. Hello. Says, I do Reiki, so having chakras in line and healthy is vital. Yes. How do you ground in a second store of apartment? Lakin says, it's more of a visual thing. So you just want to visualize, or you can, sit out in the courtyard and do it, or, somewhere where you actually, and you can kind of ground before and then go up, into your apartment and do your sewing stuff. But it's more of a visual thing. So you don't actually have to be like sitting, on the ground. It helps definitely, but it's more just visualizing those roots going down into the earth. So even if your eyes are closed and you're sitting there on your second, in your second floor apartment, you can still visualize that you're sitting on the ground and that your roots are going down into the ground. Red velvet, says Tori. Yes, that is the best of all kinds of worlds, right? That deep red, and it's cake, and it's delicious. Randy says, shouldn't you always ground and protect yourself every time? Yes, you should. Every divination session, every ritual, every spell, anything like that, that you go to do, even meditation, you should ground and protect before you even meditate. Yes, you should. It's just, I'm trying to drive home the thing that for sewing, especially this crazy one that we have coming up next week, is super important for that. Lee says protection is an important part of Reiki as well. Love your live segment. So informative. Thank you. And Marie Christie says, what are common practices for Samhain? It's like you just said, that was a segue right into, because next we're getting to practices, because I just paused for comments and questions. And yeah, we're moving right on to practices now. So thank you. This is the fun stuff, y'all. Okay. So these are kind of like in, what do I have? Four categories of practices, things you can do for Samhain. So the first one is this thin veil. You want to take advantage of the thin veil. If you don't know what that means, I'll very briefly, because I did it 2 weeks ago. We had a divination, or I did a divination live here, and I kind of went into it more. So there is a divider between our world and other worlds. So spirit realm, fairy realm, things like that. It's like a curtain. This time of year, the curtain gets thinner and thinner and thinner, and it makes it very easy to see through or make contact with those on the other side. So if you ever hear the veil between the worlds is thin, that's what it's referring to. So as far as thin veil practices, there's divination. I did a whole 1 hour live 2 weeks ago. So we should have a little video tab on our Facebook page. And you can go there and watch that one if you want to know more about divination. I go over types of divination and ways to practice them. And I even had show and tell, so you could see different things. But the most common, especially for sewing, are scrying, tarot and oracle card reading, pendulums. You can scry in a mirror, you can scry in a ball, you can scry in fire. That's one of my favorites. It's kind of like zoning out, watching a fire. And if you really open yourself up, ground and protect first, then you open yourself up. That's when you can get visions, messages, things like that. Runes are another popular one as far as divination. And I feel like I was forgetting one. And I knew I was forgetting one when I was writing this down too. If it comes to me, I'll let y'all know. But divination, so the purpose of divination is to gain information that you didn't have before, usually by a supernatural means. So you're going to be tapping into your higher self and asking questions. You're going to be tapping into your divine energy source, your deities, your gods, your goddesses, your spirit guides, things like that. Or you can use divination to kind of contact the other side as well, see if they have any words of advice, things like that. You can ask questions first, or you don't have to. You can just kind of leave it open to see what messages come in. So during this thin veil time, astral travel, lucid dreaming, well, we call it riding the hedge or flying the hedge, which is just kind of walking from this world into another. Super, like really easy this time of year. So if you want to do any of those, just ground and protect first, and then, meditate and, open up your third eye and see where that takes you. And I have meditate and celebrate the night too. It's a night Sabbath. So you definitely want to celebrate. And if you meditate, you can open yourself up to, receiving those messages. And then I have spirit and ancestor contact. So this is easier this time of year because that veil is thin. If you want to be brave, spirit board, a seance, and ghost hunting can be done. I used to do, ghost hunting years ago. I never did it on sewing. You could call me a chicken, but it was one of those things. I used to visit cemeteries, all kinds of stuff. Never did it on sewing. Because to me, that was too real. But you could definitely do those. All of them are fun practices for sewing. Just be sure to protect yourself first. So if you protect yourself, then the likelihood of negative entities or malicious entities entering the space, hopefully you can diminish that a lot by protecting yourself first, or even protecting the area around you too with like a salt circle, a circle of candles, or candles in a star shape, so that the salt, I have done that before. So you set up 5 candles in a star shape, and then around it, a circle of salt, and we would sit in the middle and do spirit board. Again, never on sewing. But that was just me because I was chicken. So that's kind of the first way that you can really dive into the sewing energy is divination, pulling cards, scrying. Yeah, definitely honor. So the veil being thin as well, just one thing that I want to, introduce here as well, or kind of put in here. You're going to be seeing things out of the corner of your eye, hearing things like that. So that's the other side trying to communicate. You can ask them if they have messages for you or, if they want you to pass on messages. I mean, it depends on how much interaction you do want with, those who have passed over, whether you know them or don't know them. So that's the next part of this is honoring past ancestors. Aha, that's also a card in the deck. As well as so Thin Veil is also in there. I just happened to write in my notes everything off of it. VP sessions was another thing I had on there, which is ghost hunting. But yeah. So there is a Thin Veil card in there as well. Just to run over too, there's also history of the jack-o'-lantern, the history of Halloween. We'll get into that one in a second as well. So yeah, for honoring your ancestors, you can set up an ancestor altar with pictures, heirlooms, mementos, so things like jewelry, if they left clothing, or even if it was like, your great grandmother's tea set, that can go on your ancestor altar as well. Anything that's going to really bring their energy in. And you don't have to do anything with it if you don't want to. You can just set it up as a way to honor them. And this is where you came from. And really just give them, that recognition and that positive energy. If you want to try and interact a little bit more, there is a dumb supper or a mute supper. There's a card on that. And we did have an infographic go out earlier today, or a post on social media that went out earlier today that kind of goes over. It's a very simplified dumb supper or mute supper ritual that you can perform. Very simplified. So basically, you set places at your table for those who have passed. So you set the places for your family that's still alive, that's attending the dinner, and then you set places for those who've passed as well. And it's supposed to be done in silence so that if there is any communication, like you've opened that line of communication, you've opened that energy, that you've opened up that communication to the other side. So if they want to, then they can communicate. And sometimes it's really hard if everyone's talking, because sometimes it's only a bell that you hear or the curtains rustle. But that way that they're there. So that's why it's done. Nobody speaks. That's why it's a dumb supper. Or a mute supper. No one speaks, so that you're honoring them in silence, but you're also making it very easy for them to communicate with you if they want to. And you serve them cakes. That was like so many different cultures are like cakes. Serve them cakes. The history of Halloween is, that's the time when the past can come back to this world, and they're kind of, walking along, and they've had a big journey. They've come from the afterlife. So you give them cakes so that they can get back to where they came from once, the veil starts to thicken again. So some other ways, some other ways that you can honor your ancestors. And let me tell you too, if you have sketchy ancestors, okay, because we all have some sketchy ancestors, but if you have some really sketchy ones, by no means do you need to make contact with them or even honor them, okay? So familial or, like actual blood relatives, yes, but you can also honor spiritual ancestors. You can honor those who've walked the spiritual path before you. So it doesn't have to be blood ancestors, especially if you have sketchy ones in your past that you don't want to contact. You don't have to. So you're good on that. So you can set up an ancestral altar. You can look at old pictures, watch home movies, read old letters, etc., to emotionally connect with those who have passed. Family reunions, even virtual ones, are really good for you can do that as a way to connect. A dumb supper, mute supper, work on your family tree or research your ancestral history. You can visit gravestones of past loved ones, bake family recipes that have been passed down through your generations as a way to honor that energy. And you can engage in a hobby or other activity that is a favorite of a past loved one to connect with their spirit. So like if your grandfather always took you fishing, you can go fishing as a way to honor, his memory. So that is another card in the deck. let me catch up before we get to, we've got Witch's New Year, and then I'm going to talk about the full moon, blue moon as a way to kind of end this, because this Samhain is going to be crazy. It's going to be awesome. Rhapsody says, I can't wait to try the grounding and protection. I've been getting nowhere in my meditations right now. That might help you because it also helps focus your energy. If you're grounded and you're protected, your energy kind of stays and you can focus it a lot easier that way. Anita says, I was taught to write on bay leaves and set intentions, then burn. Yes, that's especially good for the Witch's New Year part coming up. And if you want to practice, put that fire magic into it as well, especially if you're going to have a bonfire, because a bonfire is another really great practice for sewing. What about a newcomer? I have no specific god or goddess yet, or spirit guides, just an awareness of the duality of gods and goddess in general. Then that would be your divine energy. That's why I'm very conscious, especially when I go live, of trying to use the phrase divine energy source, because, we have people here that are, that still believe in like a Christian God. And then we have ones that are with different pantheons. So there's gods and God. Then we have some that just really resonate with a higher energy power, and it's nameless and faithless. And, so for you starting out, that would just be you connecting with your divine energy source, which for you right now, which would be a god and a goddess, kind of like an energy god and goddess. Yeah. Linda said, when you refer to this Samhain being crazy, is it because of all the deaths this year without proper send-offs? I have not thought about that. No, I was referring more to the full moon, blue moon. But yes, I never thought of that. Yeah, it's probably going to be. That's probably why everyone I have talked to, we've seen a major increase in activity this year, as far as like seeing things out of the corner of your eye, hearing things, so that's probably the reason why. Yes, I was referring more to the full moon, blue moon aspect that's also happening. Yeah, Lisa says, I always see a shadow in my back seat when I take quick glances while I'm driving. Yes. Heather says, I keep my ancestor altar set up year round, pour libations. That is the quickest way to draw some ancestors. You put out some cake and you put out some booze. Bam, you'll have a full house. Anita says, dumb supper pictures and grandmother's dishes and favorite foods. That's awesome. Lakin says, what do you do with the offerings after the ritual is done or the next morning? I usually just, if it's like a cake or something, I tend to just set it outside for nature, like the birds. That's what I do if it's a cake. And that's why cakes are really easy to do that with, because you're not like, birds can eat that and they're going to be fine as well. Veronica is here. Hello. Okay. Brandon says, I noticed there are some new people here. Can you talk about how and when people can observe Samhain full moon if they're busy on Halloween night? Yes. So the full moon is good for 3 days, I'll get to full moon, but I'll answer your question. The full moon energy is good for 3 days before the full moon, the day of the full moon, and 3 days after the full moon. So of course it grows stronger. So if you're 3 days out from the full moon, it's there, but then 2 days out, it's stronger. 1 day out, it's stronger. The day of the full moon is the most powerful, which is Saturday. And then, Sunday, Monday into Tuesday, it'll start to taper off, but you have the full moon energy for almost a week. So it'll start on, what would that be? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So Wednesday of next week. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday is like bam. And then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, it filters out. So you can really honor any time during that time. Yes. Same. And that's the same with the sewing energy as well. I hope that answers it. So if you can't do anything Saturday night, don't freak out. You're good. And Linda says, I plan to ask my ancestors to assist new souls this year after my dumb supper. That is an amazing request and intention. That is great. I love that. Yeah, you ask your past ones because they've been there, done that, right? All these new souls that passed over, have them help. That is beautiful. Oh, gave me goosebumps. All right, so Witch's New Year. It's another aspect of practice. You want to look back at everything you've accomplished since last Samhain. And celebrate that and count your blessings. Okay. So that's the first thing you want to do. Count your blessings and celebrate. This is a celebratory Sabbath. So get your celebrating on. Now you also need to look at what did you want to accomplish and you weren't able to for any reason. What were you not able to accomplish? Is this something that you want to take with you into the next year? Do you want to reaffirm that intention and make it an intention for this new year coming up? You also want to write down things you wish to get rid of and burn them. The bay leaves also that was said before, I believe by Anita, you can write down your intentions on bay leaves and put them into a fire or, a bonfire or burn them in a cauldron. You also, like I said, want to write down things you wish to get rid of and you don't want to take with you into the new year. For me, it's going to be about 10 pounds, right? But you want to make goals for the new year. So, which is New Year, if you still celebrate our conventional calendar new year on, December 31st, January 1st. And that's when you want to set your New Year's resolutions. Make those more physical, emotional, mental. And which is New Year, if you want to do this, that would be your spiritual goals. So do you want to get more in tune with yourself? Do you want to connect with your higher self more? Do you want to practice hone your psychic abilities? Do you want to read tarot and really read tarot? And by the end of the year, that's what you're going to do. Or you're even going to maybe, read tarot cards in a shop or, online and open up a business. What do you want to do spiritually for yourself? And those are the type of things the type of intentions and goals that you can set on sewing. Brandon says Rona weight is real. It's so real. That's something I don't. And if it doesn't work for sewing, I'm going to put it on my New Year's resolutions. I don't want to take this Rona weight with me into 2021 at all. But leave that in 2020. So the last aspect, which is the one I really I'm going to end with, but really put emphasis on, is the full moon, blue moon aspect. So this sewing, this Saturday, October 31st, we have a full moon, which is a blue moon. And a blue moon means that it is the second full moon for the month. So we had a full moon on October 1st. Now we're going to have a full moon on October 31st. So blue moon magic is crazy. The phrase once in a blue moon to magic. Okay. So the energy is rare. The energy is powerful. These are going to be your big goals. This is what you want to do for this full moon, this blue moon, this sewing. What are your big goals? What are your long-term goals? What are your big dreams? Where do you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? Do you want to be president? Do you want to live in Greece? These are the things that you want to really focus your energy on and your intentions. And that's what's going to happen. You're going to make it happen. It's going to have that extra magical boost on it because of the full moon, because of it's a blue moon. So big changes, huge transformations. This is the time to call all of that to you. It is. So on a side note, just a little side note, because I do want to point this out. We have a full moon, which is a blue moon, on the Witch's New Year, 3 days before an election. So if there was ever a time to put some magical energy towards positive change in our nation right now, Saturday the 31st is the time to do that. We have sewing, Witch's New Year. So it is a day devoted to witchery. Blue moon, full moon, 3 days before an election. So I just want to say that. A little side note. So because this sewing is on a full moon / blue moon, anything goes. Plus it's 2020, y'all. I don't know what the hell's going to happen. I really don't. I'm very happy that I'm going to be in my house doing my own Samhain ritual with my family and hunkering down. Because I don't know what's going to happen. If the zombie apocalypse were to kick off, I would think it would be Saturday the 1st. Just maybe, possibly, because you mix Samhain energy with that blue moon, full moon energy, man. So full moons, generally speaking, you don't want to release or banish. Okay, that's going to be your new moon. So you're not getting rid of things. You're not releasing what no longer serves you, generally speaking, during a full moon. That's going to be a new moon. But because this is on Halloween, it can happen. You want to get rid of what doesn't suit you anymore. You want to banish. You want to also manifest, draw energy to you. You want to count your blessings and draw more of that positive energy to you. There is this push and pull that will be happening with this particular sewing. Okay, so you can get away, magically speaking, with anything. You can get away with pushing energy from you, banishing all of that, and pulling energy to you. So that is what makes, energetically speaking, that is what makes this Samhain and this full moon so crazy, is that you can do any kind of magic. You don't have to color within the lines. You don't have to color within this is a new moon practice, this is a full moon practice. because the practices for Samhain are generally they're new beginnings and setting intentions. So that's like a new moon practice, but it's on a full moon, which is a blue moon. So you don't have to color inside the magical lines for Samhain this year. And I think it was Linda that pointed out all of the souls this year that have passed, this massive number of souls all over the world who've passed without proper funerals and without proper burials. Like, you add that into the mix, there's no words. This is going to be a crazy Samhain. It really is. Energetically speaking, it is going to. I would not be surprised if the majority of us are not hung over the next day. And I don't mean from alcohol, I mean from energy. Like, just if you're working your magic on Samhain on that Saturday, the next day we're probably going to all sleep the whole day. I can see that happening for a lot of us. So choose your intentions so carefully, so carefully. Protect, protect, protect. Those are kind of like my two words, my two like caution. If there was like a little ding, pay attention. Choose your intentions carefully in your words and protect. Protect, protect. There's going to be so many more souls out there kind of roaming, lost, and so much craziness going on because it's 2020, right? We've had meth crocodiles this year. So that's how I want to end this. Those two kind of words of caution. Choose your intentions wisely and protect, protect, protect. And I hope that everyone is able to really like manifest some amazing stuff. Absolutely amazing, because the energy is there. You just need to figure out what you want to use it for. All right, let me catch up on comments and questions and then we're done. Heather said the COVID-19. Is there going to be a replay? I missed it. Yes. As soon as I end this, because I'm still live right now, it's almost 4 p.m. Pacific time. So I'll be ending this and then it does go back up on the feed as a replay. And Candy said, I love that October started and ends with a full moon. Yes. Candy also said, we so need positive change. Yes, we have a video tab. Stephanie says, I'm going to a small group circle at a friend's house. It will be my first circle in a group, and I'll be calling the circle and doing a small spell of positivity and security for my friend who's living on her own for the first time. That sounds amazing. I love that. What a great way to like Samhain, new beginnings and blessings and all that. Linda says, I'm already feeling drained as an empath. Yes. Chelsea says, all of this information has been extremely helpful. I lost my soul sister almost a month ago. Thank you. Well, I'm glad that this has resonated with you. I'm glad this resonated with you. I'm sorry for your loss too. Definitely the time to reconnect if you wanted to do that. All right. That's all I have for you all today. I am here every other week talking about magical stuff. So I'll be here again in 2 weeks. If you are one of our customers, we do have a customer group that is kind of linked to this page. It's the VIP customers. And so there's 3 little questions that you have to answer in order to join. And I'm over there every week doing Sacred Space on Thursdays. If this has been cool for you and you kind of vibe with me really well and you want to dive more into magical living and diving into yourself, we have the new Inked Spirit membership group. And that's also kind of attached to this page, but you do have to purchase the membership on the website first. But then that gets you into the group and like all this members only access stuff on the website. And I do lives. That's where I am the other part. So I'm there doing lives 2 to 3 times a month there as well, teaching. So if you would like to do that, we'd love to have you as part of Inked Spirit. Amy says, this information is great as it is my first Samhain. I will be celebrating. Yay! Happy first Samhain. That's so awesome. I love to see new witches. And Chelsea says, I could totally feel her. Just would love to really connect with her and get help to accept that she's gone. Yeah, this is definitely the time for that. And I hope you do find that comfort too, Chelsea. Yeah. All right. Toasty Face is here. Thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you have an amazing Friday, an amazing weekend, and a very powerful Samhain that you can use to manifest, honestly, the life of your dreams, your big picture things. So that's what you want to focus on. All right. I will see you all next time I'm here. Bye.